But hell frozeth over. You see that right there. That is the starting lineup for this game against New Zealand. And there's Caitlin Clark. I mean, that sounds like great news. But, nah, not so much. They played her as small forward some. She was...
Hell froze over. That's the starting lineup for Team USA against New Zealand. And there's Caitlin Clark finally in the starting five. After weeks of controversy, after the Olympic snub that divided the basketball world, she's getting her shot in international play. Sounds like great news, right? Not exactly, because what they did with her on that court reveals a problem that goes way deeper than just roster decisions.
What are we doing? I don't understand it. Let Caitlin Clark play point guard. Period. Let her be dynamic. Let her be a playmaker. And even with all this, she was still just that. An instigator of violence on the court against New Zealand. And it was wonderful. Absolutely.
They played her at small forward, off the ball. The most dynamic playmaker in women's basketball, the player who led the nation in assists at Iowa, and they're running her around screens like she's a spot-up shooter. 23 minutes, 14 points, 6 assists. She was a plus 24 in a blowout win. But here's what those numbers don't tell you. She was invisible for stretches of the third quarter, missing in action, and it wasn't her choice.
They're rough to get through. They are. Caitlin was 6 of 11, by the way. 2 of 7 from three-point range. But they played her off the ball a lot in this game. She was MIA during parts of the third quarter. There's still no real rhyme or reason to these substitutions and starting lineups that the U.S. is using right now. I don't get it.
Watch this sequence carefully. 6 of 11 shooting, 2 of 7 from 3, solid numbers. But count how many times she touched the ball compared to her college games. Count how many possessions she spent standing in the corner while someone else ran the offense. This isn't maximizing her talent. This is minimizing it. And the substitution patterns? Still no rhyme or reason. They're picking rotations out of a hat.
Right here. Let me just turn that down way downtown. Long one. Boom. Knocks it down. No problem. No problem at all for Caitlin Clark. How about this? Oh, this was awesome. These defenders, forget about it. No chance. No chance. The little slight fadeaway for the two. I mean, that's a work of art. That is a work of art from Caitlin Clark. I mean, seriously, forget about it.
TNT's broadcast went black during this game. For 3 to 4 minutes, viewers across the country lost their feed. Some people thought it was just their connection. It wasn't. Multiple viewers reported the same issue on True TV. The network that paid big money to broadcast these games couldn't keep the signal running. And here's the irony. The technical difficulties were more consistent than the coaching decisions.
I mean, I gotta say this, though. I gotta keep it real. Referees they've been a little bit better than the WNBA refs throughout this international play. I haven't out loud cursed these referees one time until this play right here. Until that play right there, I was like, where's the foul? But that's the first time that I really and truly had a massive complaint about any of the referees in this game.
Look at this play. The defender has no chance. That slight fadeaway for 2 points is a work of art. This is what Caitlin Clark does when you let her operate. But those moments were few and far between, because even when she's on the court, even when she's in the starting lineup, her teammates on Team USA won't look for her. Watch the possessions. Count how many times she's open and the pass doesn't come.
Look at her. I don't get it. Put the ball in her hand. Put it in her hand. Go. Let her pass the ball, shoot, pass the ball. Let her be an instigator of violence on the court, for crying out loud. Let her cook. I mean, my God. Look, the rest of the team didn't just ball out scoring at all today. But
The offense they're running looks familiar. Half-court sets, no transition, no running whatsoever. Pass, 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 until you grow a beard and die of old age. If you watched Indiana Fever games last season, you've seen this before. These are Stephanie White's fingerprints all over the offensive scheme. The same slow-paced, methodical approach that frustrated Fever fans for months. Put the ball in Caitlin's hands. Let her be a playmaker. Let her pass, shoot, create, instigate. That's not complicated coaching philosophy. That's common sense. She averaged over 8 assists per game at Iowa running the point. She sees the floor better than anyone in women's basketball. And they've got her standing in the corner like she's a role player.
It was like kind of close, and then boom, all of a sudden, it was like a 15-point lead out of nowhere. I don't know. I was in the Ben Daniel chat. I think we were all drinking, it felt like. It was like we all need to be using alcoholic beverages at this point to get through these games. USA basketball pulled out a win. Caitlin Clark, 14-6. Could have been 20-10 if the coaches hadn't have made her.
The game against New Zealand started close, 12-11 at one point, with New Zealand actually leading. Then it became a blowout, 94-43 final score. But don't let that margin fool you. This wasn't some dominant performance that showcased Team USA's potential. This was a struggle against an overmatched opponent that only turned into a rout because of the talent gap, not because of superior strategy. Ryan Howard played 17 minutes and scored 18 points with 2 assists. Efficient performance, but here's what matters. The offense flowed differently when certain players had the ball. Some players got to run their game, others got fitted into a system that doesn't suit their strengths. And that discrepancy isn't random, it's a choice.
Forget about it. Pass, 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 pass. Wait till you grow a gray beard. Die of old age. Oh, God. The Fever season's actually coming, I guess. This is it. We're, just a few hours away from losing a preseason game, allegedly, according to the WNBA. Tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show.
The referees in international play have been noticeably better than WNBA officials. That's not a high bar to clear, but it's worth acknowledging. Until this play right here. Caitlin gets knocked down on a jump shot. Clear contact, no call. That was the first time during these international games where the officiating felt like a WNBA regular season game. And that's not a compliment. Here's what this game exposed. Team USA has the talent to win. Nobody's questioning that. But they're not maximizing their roster. They're not putting players in position to succeed. They're forcing square pegs into round holes and hoping the talent level is high enough to overcome the poor fit. Against New Zealand, it worked. Against better competition, that approach has consequences. The broadcast issues, the coaching confusion, the inconsistent rotations. These aren't isolated problems. They're symptoms of a larger issue with how women's basketball is being managed at the international level. You've got TNT, a major network with decades of broadcasting experience, losing their signal during a game that's supposed to showcase the sport's growth. You've got coaches who finally put Caitlin Clark in the starting lineup but don't know how to use her effectively. And the viewers notice. The live chat during the game was full of people asking where Caitlin was during certain stretches. Why isn't she touching the ball? Why is she standing in the corner? These aren't casual fans nitpicking. These are people who understand basketball, asking legitimate questions about roster management. 14 points and 6 assists in 23 minutes. Those are good numbers. But they should have been 20 points and 10 assists. The potential was there. The opportunity was there. What was missing was the system to unlock it. And that's frustrating to watch because everyone can see what's possible, except apparently the people making the decisions. The Indiana Fever preseason is starting soon. Same slow-paced offense, same half-court sets, same reluctance to push tempo and let Caitlin create in transition. If you thought these international games would provide a different look, a fresh approach, you were wrong. This is what the Fever season is going to look like, unless something changes dramatically. Think about the contrast here. At Iowa, Caitlin Clark ran one of the most efficient offenses in college basketball history. She had the freedom to push pace, to make reads, to take over games when necessary. The system was built around her strengths. Now, at every level, coaches are trying to fit her into their system instead of adapting their system to maximize her impact. That's backwards. When you have a generational talent, you don't force them to conform, you build around them. You create opportunities for them to showcase what makes them special. And what makes Caitlin special isn't her ability to stand in the corner and wait for a kick-out pass. It's her vision, her passing, her ability to control tempo and create advantages for her teammates. The game against New Zealand should have been a statement. First start for Caitlin Clark in international play. A chance to show what she can do with extended minutes against professional competition. Instead, it was a confusing mix of brilliance and bewilderment. Moments of excellence interrupted by long stretches where she was barely involved in the offense. And the excuses don't hold up. This isn't about chemistry or learning to play together. These are professional basketball players. They understand spacing, they understand reads, they understand how to play off a dynamic point guard. The issue isn't capability, it's willingness. Some players on this roster don't want to defer. They don't want to adjust their game to accommodate someone else's strengths, even when that adjustment would make the team better. Watch how the offense flows when Caitlin has the ball versus when she doesn't. The pace quickens, players move with more purpose. The defense has to respect multiple threats. That's not coincidence. That's what happens when you have a true playmaker running the show. But those possessions were too rare in this game. Too many times she was relegated to spectator status while someone else tried to create something out of nothing. The coaching staff talks about versatility, about having multiple players who can handle the ball and create. That's fine in theory, but in practice, it means your best playmaker spends significant time watching instead of impacting the game. That's not versatility, that's inefficiency disguised as depth. Here's the reality that nobody wants to say out loud. Some players on this roster are threatened by Caitlin Clark's presence, not physically threatened. Threatened in terms of touches, in terms of attention, in terms of who gets credit when the team succeeds. And that insecurity is affecting how they play together. You can see it in the body language. You can see it in who gets the ball in crucial moments. You can see it in the reluctance to make the simple pass to the open player, when that open player happens to be Caitlin. The New Zealand game was a microcosm of everything that's been frustrating about Team USA's approach to roster construction and player utilization. They finally did what everyone was asking for. They put Caitlin in the starting lineup, and then they proceeded to use her in the least effective way possible. That's not progress, that's checking a box while missing the entire point. So what happens next? The fever season approaches with the same coaching staff, the same offensive philosophy, the same resistance to building around their best player. International play continues with the same confusion about roles and rotations, and fans are left wondering why the obvious solution, the common sense approach, remains so elusive to the people in charge. The answer isn't complicated. Egos get in the way, established hierarchies resist disruption, coaches want to prove their system works rather than adapting to their personnel, and players who've been stars their entire careers don't want to accept that someone else might be better suited to lead the offense. Those are human reactions, but they're also obstacles to winning. Caitlin Clark proved at Iowa that when you give her the keys, she delivers. National championship game appearance, records for points and assists, wins against top-ranked opponents. She didn't do that by standing in the corner. She did it by controlling the game, by making everyone around her better, by imposing her will on the opposition. That player still exists, but she's being wasted by coaches and teammates who can't see past their own limitations. The 14 points and 6 assists against New Zealand are fine. They're respectable, but they're a fraction of what's possible. And until someone in a position of authority decides to actually maximize Caitlin's talent instead of minimizing it to keep everyone else comfortable, we're going to keep having this same conversation. Great individual moments surrounded by confusion and missed opportunities. Flashes of brilliance buried under questionable decisions. That's not how you build a championship team. That's how you waste a generational talent. And if you're a fan who's been watching this unfold, who's been frustrated by the obvious disconnect between potential and reality, you're not alone. The evidence is right there on the court. The question is whether anyone in charge is willing to acknowledge it and actually do something about it. Based on what we saw against New Zealand, don't hold your breath.